Caddis Maximus here, this time with a review of a vintage Craftsman push drill. So this is looks like a screwdriver, but it's actually a hand drill. When you push on it, the rod rotates. These things were obviously very common many decades ago, but doing a quick cursory research, actually it turns out that there's actually quite a few manufacturers who still make these types of drills today. And I can see why, because they're real handy if you need to do shallow drilling. Maybe you're doing not jewelry work, but making little jewelry boxes. I could see where you're actually putting hinges on thin cabinet doors, where these could actually be pretty handy. There's also drill stops and things is what people use, but maybe for some fine woodworking, just because you have the ability to push it in just a few times. If you want to go in, say, 1/4 of an inch, you can have something set up here where you push it like 5 or 10 times, and you know that you have a 1/4 inch deep hole, and that's all you have to do is push it and know you need 10 strokes, and you always will have holes of the same depth. Really, there's not, a ton of, or very many situations, obviously, that these would be better than a power drill. Besides they're convenient, they're small like a screwdriver. There's been many brands of these manufactured over the years, and even some of the current ones are pretty nice. This Craftsman, this old American-made Craftsman, was maybe not quite as good as some of the Stanleys that were all steel, but this one's still pretty nice. It has a nice chrome-plated steel rod. There's a ball bearing system in there that rides on some tracks, so that's how it spins around. It does have a billet aluminum lower. This is a Bakelite midsection. This is actually a chrome-plated cast zinc cap, and we can see the whole interior is actually all metal, so this is just a sleeve, and then conveniently it holds all the bits. I've seen these over the years, but usually they're missing all the bits. This one had most of its bits. I kind of like the heavy cap on this one because it can just spin down like so. You couldn't rebuild the chuck itself on these, but it was actually held in by a pin, so you could get a whole chuck assembly. You just hold it by one hand, and you actually push up because it's easier to do that when you're holding it with one hand. And here are our bits. It actually has a little dog leg that's down the bottom of the chuck. That's what actually drives the bit. And then it has a semicircular cutout that actually is the ball retainer. So you just put it in there and you just twist it until it snaps down, and then release it, and you're ready to go. There may be some small craft projects. Let me do a little bit of a zoom in on this chuck. I'm actually going to zoom in quite a bit because I thought this was a really neat aspect. This is a permanently assembled chuck where they put the whole spring assembly in, push the cap over, kind of jam the spring up, and then they roll the back edge of the steel collar over to permanently retain it. But if you look, they use essentially what is the knurling tool to roll over the edge, so the knurling goes all the way across the back, and I thought that was a pretty neat effect. As we can see, because it's a push drill, the bits have straight flutes, otherwise it would just get too much bite. If these ever kind of jam up, what's also nice is you can just hand twist them like a screwdriver. I did demonstrate here in the board. Through harder, they don't work very well through things like foams or anything, but harder materials like pieces of cardboard, sometimes they can be real nice for getting actually a pretty good hole in something quite odd like this cardboard. This is actually a real dense electrically insulated cardboard, and many times just to have a simple tool in your box to be able to make quick holes, definitely pretty handy. I was going to show, I even drilled some holes through plastic. This takes a while. It'll take you like a minute or something to get through the plastic. But let me zoom in just a little bit more. I don't know how well you can see, but surprisingly enough, if you concentrate, the holes can come out relatively straight. You would think because if it's a driver, you would just be wallowing around, but generally speaking, you're relatively in line because it is a screwdriver style. And I just wanted to show that even on deep holes where you have to press like 50 or 100 times, that the holes can come out pretty straight, and then like plastics, it just leaves, you get a bit of a burr, but the actual finish of the hole itself and on the inside is extremely good. And so I thought they're handy if you're working with small cabinet screws. One of the advantages to this versus using an electric drill of any type, a little cordless one with drill stops, is this. You can get the same control over the depth of a hole, but without even having to worry about having even a little drill stop scuffing up a surface. And I thought that was kind of neat. Plus the nice design, like a strong hex there, so when you set it on the table, it doesn't roll around. So something to watch out for. Especially since, surprisingly enough, these things are being made. Not maybe Craftsman, but when I was searching around, I was like surprised to see websites selling them. So I was like, wow, maybe like records, there's a resurgence in manually operated tools. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.